Welcome everyone, I'm Daniel. Today we're unpacking an ICLR 2025 paper called AgentTrek. In one line, the authors turn ordinary web tutorials into step-by-step training data for GUI and web agents. Models fine-tuned on this data get noticeably better at planning, choosing the right elements, and finishing tasks. In their runs, a fine-tuned open-source model even edged past GPT-4 on the Web Arena benchmark, and each high-quality trajectory costs about 55 cents to synthesize. That's the headline.
Hi, I'm Maya. So from a user's point of view, this sounds like learn from tutorials, then practice in a real browser until the agent can reliably perform the steps. Is that the idea?
Exactly. The work is led by Yiheng with Tao Yu as senior author at the University of Hong Kong and Kiming Xiong from Salesforce Research among the collaborators. The core problem is that agents need long, grounded, multi-step trajectories to learn real interface use, but those traces are scarce and expensive to label by hand, and they go stale as websites change.
Right, and the usual text corpora don't capture click-by-click behavior. What was missing in earlier datasets?
Earlier resources often had trade-offs. Some were smaller in scale, others lacked visual context like screenshots, or didn't record intermediate reasoning. That made it hard for agents to learn both where to click and how to plan over several steps on real sites.
All right, walk me through the AgentTrek approach in plain English.
3 stages. First, they automatically collect tutorial-style pages and convert them into clear task goals with step-by-step instructions. Second, a vision language agent replays those steps in a real Chromium browser environment. While it acts, the system logs screenshots or accessibility trees, the actions and brief reasoning at each step. Third, a separate evaluator model checks whether the attempt actually achieved the goal and filters out low-quality traces. What you end up with is a clean, grounded trajectory for training.
So the tutorial gives the plan, the browser run grounds it to real UI, and the evaluator keeps only the good stuff, kind of like supervised driving with a dash cam.
That's a good analogy. The pipeline runs at scale, producing over 10,000 successful trajectories across more than 100 websites, with an average around a dozen steps per task. It covers common categories like e-commerce and productivity, so the data has both breadth and depth.
And you mentioned cost earlier. About 55 cents per usable trajectory seems low. How do they manage that?
Most of the cost sits in the replay stage, where a strong model follows the tutorial in the browser. But the process is fully automated end-to-end, and they validate the automatic evaluator against human checks, reporting agreement in the low to mid-80s as a quick screen for quality. That keeps the cost manageable while maintaining signal in the dataset.
Let's talk results. How much does this training data help in practice?
On Web Arena, fine-tuning open-source language models with AgentTrek's textual trajectories yields clear gains. And in their setup, a mid-size model fine-tuned on this data edges out GPT-4's reported score. On the ScreenSpot web grounding benchmark, adding AgentTrek to a vision model more than doubles its baseline performance and is competitive with strong tool-augmented systems. And on multimodal Mind2Web, the model trained with AgentTrek improves element selection, Operation F1, and step-level success across tougher splits like cross-task and cross-website, including cases where it surpasses GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 on the operation metric.
So the data seems to teach both where to click and how to plan the next step. That's reassuring. Why does this approach work so well?
Because the training data matches the problem. Tutorials provide a human-curated sequence of steps, which reduces aimless exploration. Replaying those steps in a live browser ties the language to the actual UI elements. Then filtering with an evaluator keeps only the successful, well-grounded examples. It's alignment of data with task, not just more tokens.
Let's put on the skeptical hat for a minute. Any concerns listeners should keep in mind?
A few. First, the pipeline depends on strong, often closed models for replay and evaluation, which raises questions about reproducibility and portability if you switch providers. Second, websites change, so trajectories can go stale unless you refresh the data. Third, automated evaluators can be biased or inconsistent on edge cases, even if they agree with humans most of the time. And finally, benchmarks are helpful, but real deployments still face things like logins, rate limits, and anti-bot friction that aren't fully covered here.
Fair points. If you were steering the next steps, what would you try?
I'd test open source evaluators and report agreement with human raters, set up periodic data refresh with versioning, and extend the idea beyond the web to desktop and mobile GUIs. I'd also explore training beyond standard supervised fine-tuning, such as preference optimization or offline reinforcement learning on these trajectories. And I'd tighten licensing and privacy policies around tutorial sources and captured screenshots to make downstream use smoother.
Great. Give me the executive summary one more time for someone who just tuned in.
AgentTrek is an automated way to turn web tutorials into rich, multi-step, grounded trajectories for training GU agents. It scales to real websites, it's cost-efficient, and models trained on it show meaningful gains on standard benchmarks, including competitive results against larger closed models in the author's runs. If your agent needs to read, reason, and click on screens, this is a practical path to better training data.
That wraps it up. Thanks, Daniel. And thanks to you for listening. This is AI Podcast, and we'll see you next time.